Yeah, we're recording.
Since when?
Since right now.
Since the whistle?
Yeah.
That's a good intro tone. Maybe put that. Honestly, don't like. That's gonna be like the opening thing. Where the what's that super old show? I mean, I don't know if you know.
Oh, I don't know the name of it. I know what you're talking about. That's The Dad and the Son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. No, not the Truman Show. That's a movie.
That's a movie.
Frick.
I don't know.
Andy Griffith Show, I think.
It might be.
Probably.
Let me see. Was it Andy Griffith Show? The one where he goes.
Oh, I have no clue.
Which one's that one? Where the main character goes.
I'm about to just.
I can't wait to have to cut this out.
Andy Griffith. Yep. I just looked it up. Are you looking it up through this whistling? I googled it.
Wait. I want to see.
Are you trying to test it out? That is kind of. Are you testing it on YouTube?
Well, I was trying to test out the Google one.
Oh, YouTube has a setting now, which I think our audience probably already knows. But like, if you don't know a song, and I like how it's the funny meme of everyone being like, "Okay, hey Google, what's the song that goes ooh ooh ah," and like thinking they're gonna get it, but now they're actually developing technology where it can pick it up.
That's really fun. Let me try. Wait. Is it just the search? Do you just do the microphone?
I mean, it is. Well, yeah. Just try whatever. Like maybe if you. Didn't work. Mm-mm. Well, then they're still working on technology. So it's
okay, whatever. You just made me look like an idiot on the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. There's no such thing. That'd be the funniest thing.
So, welcome back to the podcast, everyone.
Welcome back to the Real
Deal
podcast. Woohoo! I'm happy to have that back.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah.
You know us at our little intermittent breaks because we're in college.
We should honestly change our name to the Hiatus Podcast.
That'd be kind of funny, low key.
Hiatus with Christian and Cooper.
That'd be pretty funny.
Hi-Atus.
So I'll get. Never mind. You're fine.
Hi-Atus. Like it's a letter. Like you're saying hi.
Who would Atus? We'd have to find a friend named Atus.
We'd have to get him on every year and just be like, he gave us credit to use his name.
Yeah. Hi, Atus. And then we'd talk to him for all year and then he would leave.
That's the podcast. We get him on for like the opening.
365-day
We get him on for the opening of the series and then we just talk whatever.
And we never see him again.
Nope.
Hi, guys. My name is Atus.
And we never see him, which is funny because we're playing on the name of Hiatus.
Yeah. That's a really.
Speaking of how.
That's an idea.
We're acting like BoJack and Mr. Peanut Butter. I'm overly excited. I'm like talking about stuff and I'm like, yeah, it could be like this and a great idea. And
rehab was supposed to be a second chance for me.
Which is, yeah.
Funnily enough, we talked about season 4.
Well, so for you guys' sake, last time you saw us was season 3. And then we were like, yep, we got season 4 out. And we did. We did.
It exported and it was like, it's good to go.
It's on
YouTube
and it's processing and then it didn't get rendered.
I think YouTube is forever processing.
Yeah.
I think it will always be trying to get that video out.
We may screenshot it and put it on like a community page.
Oh, yeah. Or on
like
the Instagram.
Instagram to post like, hey guys, we're coming back, but not with this episode.
But basically, the long and short of it is season 4 was pretty good, but nothing. It is the in-betweener season, which is I think it's okay.
I think it's a big filler season. Like it does definitely have good episodes, but it was probably I don't think BoJack has a bad season, but I think when it comes to shows,
I think it's the weakest of the seasons.
Yeah, and when it comes to a show that's really good, there can be some weaker
and
seasons.
It may not be. Well, no, because it has the cabin, right? The cabin episode is in season 4.
It has some. Well, I was saying it has some good episodes.
It has some really good. I mean, by the way, go watch season 4. You're gonna understand what we were saying. It's a very straightforward, like, wow, this is a great representation of this or this or this. I
think it just played a little filler for me, even though it had some good. I mean, there were good episodes, especially talking about.
But the lead up. Like
the build
season 5 and 6, I think they just dwarf season 4, which I think is. I also think 5 and 6. We're trying to rationalize us losing the episode, by the way, guys. So.
I also think 5 and 6. That's also what we're talking about today. We're gonna cram in 5 and 6 into one episode, just because. One, we like you guys, and we want to.
And this has been going on for too long.
Yeah. We honestly,
both love BoJack, but fuck.
No, seriously, we love the show, but it is kind of getting to a level where like I want to be done with this because I want to move on with our content, and we don't want people to wait for a season 6 review to come out in July of 2024.
Yeah, I just want to be able to get movies out. Plus, also our New Year's resolution last year was to get BoJack done this year.
No.
Yeah, it was because we talked about doing it, and we were like, that's gonna take forever.
Oh, fair. Yeah, our New Year's resolution was like we're gonna start doing a TV thing, and we're gonna drop it, and then. Took us almost a whole year just to do BoJack, which...
To be fair, I mean, we did Sweet Tooth in an episode. We should... If we do TV from now on, we're just going to do it all in one episode.
Listen, we're not going to talk about every single episode. We're going to talk about the themes, the characters, our favorite stuff, and, like, maybe rank the seasons or something.
Yeah, I'm not going back through and doing...
that again.
Yeah, we're like this episode. We're not gonna be like this specific episode. This is what happens.
Right. We may
We're
talk
gonna
about
just straight
like,
up talk about the character growths and stuff.
Character growth, story beats. If there's something interesting, we throw in there. But yeah, I'm not gonna go through. I pulled it up just so I kind of remind myself. But I did just like watch 5 and 6 again this past couple weeks during like in between my finals.
Ooh, I wonder if there's a synopsis for the season.
If we look at the Netflix thing, there's probably a synopsis. Yep, here it is. No, wait, this is the episode synopsis. Yep, never mind. Maybe you can look it up. If you go to episode guide. But yeah, we are just wanting to be done. We want to start jumping into it. We're actually going to record a double this today where we're wrapping up BoJack on this episode, and then and then we're going to talk about like kind of our favorite movies from this year and what's coming next year with content.
Season 5. BoJack has misgivings about his new show. Princess Carolyn visits an adoption agency. Todd interviews for a job. And at what time is it right now.com. Content collapsed. So content collapsed. Diane divorces Mr. Peanut Butter. Huge thing. And moves into a shabby studio, feeling melancholy. She travels to Vietnam to get away from it all. Okay, cool. So yeah, the synopsis is probably those are the most important.
When we were
beats,
definitely talking about season 4, we caught up on. I think season 4 was like a bit of a down shot for a lot of characters because, in a sense, here's a recap of some beats in season 4. I'm not going to say much about Todd. Todd did his own thing. Todd, I think, develops his asexuality a bit more, and he found this person. Princess Carolyn was with Ralph, the mouse guy.
Yeah.
And they were in a great relationship, and she got pregnant, but then she miscarried,
and also found out that the mice are racist.
Yeah, she went but he's a good mice, but
he's a good guy. He's a good mice.
But they had a lot of just trouble with their relationship, and obviously it's a bit of a personal thing where it's like she's pushed away too much of a good thing because of how rough her own life has been, how not in control of her own self she is. Yeah. And so they lost a baby called Filbert, which at the end of the show,
someone pitches a show
called Filbert, and she likes it. So that's what kind of leads into this season.
His name's Flip. I think the whole idea was that he was a dolphin, and that was the funny thing. And then there's a therapist episode this season where they portray him as a dolphin. Yeah. Yeah,
I do think that's a fun episode to talk about. And then Diane and Mr. Peanut Butter, obviously at the end we saw them split. And like you just said in the synopsis,
they divorced.
And so this season is about them going in separate ways. And then BoJack just kind of like... BoJack, well, that was the season where he was like processing a lot of grief with like Sarah Lynn and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he was losing...
Was he with Hollyhock that season too?
Because that was the season where his mom died. That's where he...
Oh, yeah, Hollyhock was there for most of it.
Season 4 was the Hollyhock season where she was there, and then she left. And because the ending of season 4, he gets the job for Filbert, and he's like, I can't wait. I'm not your dad, And she's like, well, guess what? I don't need another dad, but I would do like a brother.
Yeah, I would like an older brother.
It ends on like a high note for everybody, and like a mid-low note.
I do wish that we could have had the episode out just to talk about Hollyhock. Hollyhock, in the most simplest way, she is a mirror of what... So BoJack believes that his blood destines him to be awful. Mm-hmm. And he worries that that's going to happen to her. But she's almost like the perfect mirror for him of like what he could have just been, a super normal person who just enjoyed life. And she's a very hard mirror for him to look into. Yeah. And he doesn't really understand it, and it kind of makes him have this kind of codependency on her for a while. But for the most part, it's a great relationship between him. It's one of the only like really, really healthy relationships he has, at least right now. And even still, it's still dysfunctional because it's BoJack, and we've got to have that in the scene.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'm glad that we got to see more of her in this season. It's also kind of sad when you see her in season 5 and 6 because of her character, because like we don't see her as much. We obviously see, and that's like the point is to keep her distant, and they talk about it in season 6. But it is like, it's because it's like the one person. I mean, there's other people that care about BoJack, but it's the one person that he has like kind of a more clean slate with.
She's the last bit of family he has.
Because everyone else is gone and stuff. It's a bummer.
I hope you guys can't hear the AC.
I think it'll be fine. If so,
It'll
great
be fine.
noise.
I'll put a little denoise on it.
But yeah, so season 5 kind of caps off. The first episode is they're filming on Filbert, and we already meet a new character. Her name is Gina. She's gonna be the co-star, and her and BoJack have like around like the entire season they have a bit of a like sleeping around co-star.
Yeah, they're just
relationship.
hooking up.
Yeah, they're just hooking
up.
up.
But BoJack gets attached to her
pretty fast.
Yeah, and she is like, I just hook up with all the main people always because it's like what you do if you're an extra, which is sad. She's a sad show of like how the film industry treats females a lot of the time,
where they're kind of used to their bodies, and she's like not even like really a main character, and she doesn't talk much, and even like in a later episode, like we're not talking about specific episodes, we're gonna jump, we're talking about character development.
We're just talking about how
like
it goes.
Later in the season
they make her do they were going to make her do a full frontal nudity,
well that, but also like in the scene where BoJack kind of like works too much, and he gets
we have with the Don't Stop Dancing Till the Curtains Fall song, and then that song is reiterated in season 6 in the finale.
I think that was a great because also in that in the show, like, so the Don't Stop Dancing in the Curtain song is a really song, like, it's really, I think, satirical but also very like passionate song, and it's like this old style like Singing in the Rain type, like, like tap dancey like kind of beat song, but it's about BoJack like continuing to work and go through the motions.
And also it uses Gina because she always wanted to do musical theater.
And there's an episode where she does that, and she's not good.
No, she's not good, and BoJack makes her basically embarrass herself in front of everyone.
Accidentally, like
but he thought she was gonna be good. He thought she was gonna be good.
And I mean, but that also developed the relationship a bit, where they weren't just hooking up anymore. They actually had like feelings for each other and like had a good relationship.
Yeah.
And then in like later in the like later down the season, like they get closer and closer, which does kind of change the mind. And then again, like you said about the industry, she gets turned into a bit of like a ploy, or not like a ploy, but BoJack accidentally like gets drugged up, or he doesn't get drugged up. He gets somewhere. I don't like to skip stuff, but we'll go back to it. He works too hard, and he kind of gets sleep deprived, and he he starts like blending. In the episode, he starts blending work and his life together, and they'd see it in a lot of great match cutting. And again, that's something I really commemorate this show, is how creative some of the
I liked that they made his house. Flip had never been to his house or anything, and he was like, "This is what I imagine." What is it? It's what I imagine a middle-aged like burnout to like live at, and he was like, "It's the exact same. This is
exactly
house.
my house." Yeah, it's really funny. And
this set's my house. And then he gets, and that makes some really great moments where like he'll be sleeping with Gina, and because Gina's with him all the time now because they're dating, kind of.
Yeah, they end up getting like together, like officially.
They'll like hook up at his house. And then he'll like turn around and wake up on set, and I'm like, oh my god! And he's taking like a bunch of drugs.
Yeah, so let's focus on the drugs real quick, like while we hop on it, because obviously,
my favorite subject.
The entire show, BoJack is this representation of like the stereotypical actor, flawed person that gets big, famous, and normally probably grew up with a lot of trauma because of the industry, or just like because of business. And slamming door check, by the way, our friend's about to leave, so we'll give him a second.
You're good. Bye, Brady. We love you.
Love you, bud. And whoosh.
All right, cut nice. Here. Christian and editing.
I say leave it in. I say we're trying to be real, but like with 2 E's.
With the deal.
But yeah, no. BoJack is this representative character of like the Hollywood idea of a burnout, and someone who is like, 'cause I would say
burnout, drug overdosed actor who doesn't really play very many roles anymore.
And that also just gets kind of like weird with their thing. And he also, he is a lot more than that, especially with the show. We see that especially with alcoholism and drug abuse, but in his time, we've seen him use drugs and it ruin his life and alter his life. But he also has the dependency on it because he makes himself feel good because when he's ever sober or in his clear mind, his mind races just when he's even trying to do good or think about stuff. So he takes these pills. This is after. So we see Holly Hawk. She comes in for a visit real quick, but it's so quick. And she accidentally, because she deals with her own stuff too, because she, in season 4, when his mother had dementia, she lived with him. And so did Holly Hawk. But then she got drugged on accident with fat, like fat shredding pills.
Yeah, it was like fat burners, which I think they're like an opioid of some sort.
Okay, and she took too many, and it wasn't even, she was basically drugged by the grandmother, and so she has like PTSD from that. So when she came back to see BoJack, obviously she doesn't associate BoJack with that directly, but indirectly she does, and she accidentally pours down BoJack's back pills he got because he got in an accident. Like he had back pills from just working too hard and being old. And then
no. He did his own stunts. He hurt his back.
He did his own stunts. He hurt his back, and he had to take these pills. He prescribed them, so he wasn't actually doing any other hard drugs anymore. Since again, Sarah Lynn's stuff, just drinking and those pills. But then he became, and again, I love how it shows like real world events. It's someone who became addicted to like painkillers.
Yeah,
and he became addicted, and when she poured it down, he was like, "We need to find more because I need them." But then later in that episode, she sees he doesn't need them and he's just become addicted to them.
Yeah.
And we see that more frequently down the line of him becoming more dependent on substances and it ruining anybody who tries to help him tear away from it until literally the worst happens and he has to say, I need to change. So that's where he kind of gets the pills from. And when it came to on set with Gina and them, he took too many pills. And like you were saying, he would wake up or he'd fall asleep in his bed and then wake up on set and would keep transitioning. And then he would also have these moments where he's like reliving the same moment, but as the character Filbert, and then as himself. And then in one of the scenes, he actually begins to choke Gina, supposed to be in the scene, but he continues to choke her and he keeps choking her and keeps choking her.
It's in real life.
In real life, where people actually like, and you see it, like it plays off as a comedic for a second, and then it jumps into how serious it is. And then she, as an actress, is genuinely terrified as a person because this person could have killed her.
Yeah.
And she knows it's because of the pills and everything too. And they make a big stunt about it. But again, this is going to my point about being like the woman in the industry. She just got her career to take off. Like she doesn't
want to be known as the girl who got choked by BoJack.
Because that could be like a lot of women and like it's already hard enough to be a successful female in the industry because it's a male dominated world. It is. And especially in the industry.
Unless you're in editing.
Because I mean, it's talking about Tarantino and Spielberg and all them great female editors.
Well, editing, originated with female. Females were the first people to
because
do movie editing.
They give them the task of cutting it.
Give them that emotional cut.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's fantastic. But for actors, you're always going to get overlooked. And I admit to that, where I know more male actors' names than female actors' names because I don't know why. It's just a thing with me where I
don't know very many actors' names, period.
So you're safe. But so in the thing, she kind of like goes along with the industry ploy of like, we don't want a huge controversy, we want the set to be fine. So they decide to kind of sway it off for her career, but then she told him straight up, like, even though like we're putting this aside professionally, we're done. And that cuts another Tiny's relationship. And she literally tells him, like, you need to get help. Yeah. And maybe it's because...
it's hard. It's a really hard scene.
I mean, it's hard because obviously he's been through, and he says it in season 6, he doesn't believe in rock bottom because he just keeps finding a lower bottom. But he, I guess this time it was because he's gone through so many stretches, and especially I think with losing more people, he really like wanted to listen this time. And also because maybe everyone else is in a terrible place too, where before everyone was in kind of a so-so place, but now it's like his support group. Mm-hmm. He always had someone to kind of fall back on, even like just a little bit.
Even if it's just like Princess Carolyn.
Yeah, but this time Princess Carolyn is busy with...
She's doing mom stuff.
We'll talk about how she adopted a kid, and Diane's going through like a divorce situation, being on herself, and honestly not wanting to associate with BoJack at all. Todd's busy, Mr. Peanut Butter's busy, And so he's got no fallback this time. And so that's probably what made him really want to change, is because was truly alone in this time. And this is probably the farthest he's been with a low point where, I mean, he's done a lot of bad stuff. And I don't think that is the epitome to his like lowness, because I think stuff discussed in the earlier seasons was pretty low. But I think it's because it was someone he actually truly cared about, and he wanted to come out clean about it, but he got silenced. And I guess he realized that, like, okay, this is like a huge sign I need to clean up. And he will in season 6.
Yeah.
But yeah,
hopefully,
yeah. And
also this season, I mean, it just illuminates these character connections when BoJack is kind of always seen as like a baby almost. He constantly needs people around him to not die, which is like, the same thing as a baby. But it's just very interesting that when everyone's gone, he is the most self-destructive he could possibly be. And I like this sentiment of he doesn't believe in rock bottoms. I think that's so interesting that he's experienced the lowest of the lows and some of the highest of the highs. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand his wherewithal. And, I feel like if I was in that situation, I would just give up. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he really doesn't is kind of crazy, But I mean, season 5 is immaculate. It's a spectacular season. And like I said, it's unfair to compare it to season 4, because season 4 really focused on his family relations, and this is focusing on his friendship relations.
Yeah, and because I mean, everyone has some pretty stuff, and you think about it. Some people comparatively are like, what's more important to me, friends or family? Because depending on your lifetime, you may.
For BoJack, it was definitely friends.
Oh yeah,
and it's crazy seeing him. He loses all of his connections through season 4 and 5. He loses like kind of just everybody.
Yeah,
everybody, and it just illustrated so well. Everybody's living their own actual real lives. It feels like people are doing things off screen.
Yeah, because because that is life. Like, I mean, I think we're at a point in our lives right now where we haven't gotten there yet because we're still so winded up and connected. But like, I'll talk about the speech. Well, I'll talk about it now, but it jumps into season 6. But there's a thing BoJack said in like this, I think it's like the literal episode before the finale, and he talks about like just be in the moment and like cherish it, because he goes and does a professor job in season 6 after rehab, and he talks about like, you guys should cherish the moments that you have together and stuff as like friends, and you should stick in the moment because time will fly by. And so in season 5, everyone is like going through, like, they are separated, they're living other lives, and that's realistic, because I mean, I've had issues with that, like attachment issues, where I'm like, oh, I feel bad because people aren't with me anymore. They're just like, I haven't spoken to them in like years, and then it's like, no, they're living their life, and they do. But especially centered around our protagonist of BoJack, we think everyone's like left him, but that's also BoJack's like fault, is that he is very self-centered, where he thinks everyone has to be in consent to him. Like you say, he's a baby. Yeah, and I like to bring home the point of like people live their lives off screen. Mm-hmm. Is sometimes like BoJack will like go and talk to somebody, and somebody, like, I think he literally didn't know Sarah Lynn that Princess Carolyn had a baby. Oh yeah. And then found out she had a baby, and then we cut to her episode, the episode after, and it's her episode about her having a baby. And it's just really cool being like, I want this baby, I want this baby, I want this baby. And I think it happened off screen. I think... No, it did. So it transitioned. So at the end of season 5, we see, and I think we want to transition a bit into Princess Carolyn of season 5 and season 6 before we jump into like big BoJack stuff in season 6. Yeah, because it is front and center BoJack. Season 6. I mean, we get kind of all of our loose ends wrapped up at season 4 and 5. For most of the characters. For most of the characters when it comes to like... Minus Princess Carolyn. She isn't... Well, yeah, because I think full story is wrapped up at Todd's kind of stopped being like anything driven with him, and like probably like even like the midpoint of season 5. And I mean, again, Todd isn't such a he's just comic relief character, but he's still fun. They do make a really funny misogyny joke, which I'm usually like, that's kind of weird. But with the film industry, it's the sex robot. Oh, yeah, and then he just like.
I think literally he like smacks a secretary's ass and is like, "I want to fill you," and then it's like,
well, yeah,
and then they take it like the only way they possibly could.
Well, I thought that was kind of comedic about it is do you watch SNL?
A little bit.
Okay, well, SNL there was a script
where The Rock makes a molesting robot. Oh.
Oh, well, he does do that. I forgot about that.
He does do that.
I forgot that
the evilest evil convention. Well, I made a molesting robot.
Why would you make that? I forgot about that.
Sorry, I thought the definition of evil was.
I forgot about that. No, there was one where it was James Franco, and which is kind of ironic since he, had some allegation stuff like a couple years ago. But he's better now. He got the BoJack treatment. But
no, he got the who's the other guy that's like with BoJack? They do the horny unicorn movie.
Herb Kazaz?
No, other guy. The guy who wants to see his daughter and he's like actually strung out all the time.
The Krillfish dude, like the bass guy, the director.
No. It's not. I don't think he's a director. He's just like whenever he's at rock bottom. And what was it?
Unicorn.
I think a horny unicorn movie. Let me find it.
What? Anyway, while you're looking,
I'll look it up.
In the SNL skit, the guy has to apologize to the female coworkers because he said some stuff, but it was like nothing really super bad. It was like maybe he like commented on one of their like figure or weight or asked one out, which again isn't appropriate of a workplace, but there is definitely like crazier stuff. And so they joke about it because then the next the person right next to him says the most like heinous, inappropriate, like sexually redundant stuff, but he says it in such a joking manner. Oh, him, yeah. And he says it in such a joking manner, and everyone kind of like laughs it off because they're like, "Oh, he's just being him."
Yeah.
And so that's like with like the robot when Todd builds it, he climbs this ladder just for like people misinterpreting it. And the thing is, he says a bunch of stuff before, like she picks it up, and then he says something about like low battery, and then she goes, "What did you just say?" And then that's what sparks it. And I think that's just so funny. And yeah, they are playing on like Weinstein territory stuff.
Man, it's just so funny because it's like also just like the most sexist, possibly sex charged thing in the office is like what is selling tickets, which is crazy. And like, it becomes a CEO or something.
Oh yeah, because it's what's funny is at the end, it's like when they do the interviews about it, because they're like, at first I thought I was just making small talk, but now I understand. And then they cut to Todd, and Todd goes, he is a sex robot, and he should not be a CEO because he's like the one that's like understands that it's
and
a
everyone
robot.
Else is like, I just can't believe he did that. And it's like he was made to have sex and intercourse.
Yeah, it's. I think it's such funny humor. Like it's such smart humor.
And them reusing jokes and placing them in like the dentist clowns are a huge like bring back. They can be random at any point, and that's really fun.
It's just jokes like it's because
they build upon jokes.
They build upon jokes, but they're also really smart because it's a show that makes fun of the industry that they're in, and that's why it works so well because people like self-awareness. People like getting made fun of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why memes work so much is because people are laughing at themselves because they can relate to it. And when you try to make comedies that aren't, I mean, you can definitely, there's obviously a subgenre where you can make comedies that aren't self-aware and are just funny because there's stuff that is just funny. But people do like to be the face of their own jokes because they can understand it, they can relate to it.
I can relate to myself much more than I can relate to somebody who else is getting made fun of.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting just how they approach all the humor and stuff. And also, I mean, they make fun of the industry but also bring to light like some things that a lot of ordinary people don't know. I mean, like child stars growing up and being hooked on every drug imaginable. That happens almost every time.
Yeah, you hear about it. It's about like 70%, I think.
Which is crazy.
Which is awful because it's like the biggest thing that I think comprehend about it because obviously I'm not in the industry yet. I don't know about it. I hear these stories again, like and I've lived across the other side of the country, so I don't understand. But I think it's just making someone grow up too fast. Yeah,
I mean, like, here's a real story from the industry.
Okay.
Zach and Cody?
Yeah. Dylan and Cole Sprouse.
Yes, yeah. Who's the guy who plays the manager and the mom?
Wait, both of them?
Yeah.
Wait, you mean like Mr. Mosby?
Yeah.
I don't know the characters' names, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I haven't seen Zach and Cody in forever. This is something I recently watched. Zach and Cody, the guy who plays Mr. Mosby was like he literally told them, "You're gonna have to take every bullet on set because you're not replaceable."
Oh, like they had to take everything. If anything bad happens, they have to take all.
It has to be their fault, basically. And they did it with like they took that job very seriously.
I mean, because they made $40,000 an episode.
Oh yeah, and like that's crazy actually. But the mom, like there was a joke about the mom being fat or something, and they would not say it, like stuff like that.
They want to be respectful.
Yeah, because they're. I mean, and then they were like, I'm not gonna say this joke, and they said it in the live taping, and they didn't say it, and the director got mad or whatever, and they like pushed back, and that's the cool thing about sitcom shows is if you're the main character of the thing, you basically run it. The only person who runs higher than you is the writers
or the producers.
Or the producers. Yeah, if you can get your show canceled. But like you can push around the director. It doesn't take a lot. You just can say, I'm not going to do that or you're going to have to replace me, and then they can't replace you.
Yeah, obviously. And they're like, because I heard a story about it with on a podcast for like the show Boy Meets World from the 90s. And one of the main writers was also like one of the main directors, but he was like the show front. But he wasn't on set one day, so they had to have another guy kind of be like a script supervisor.
The showrunner, you mean?
They had to have another showrunner on script and he was like from outside. He wasn't even like with the company or nothing. And I guess it was just such a funny script that they were laughing and joking off. And they were like, they're like 13-year-old kids, so they were having a genuine fun time. But it was just such funny material that they probably were a lot more lax and were goofing off. And the director was super pissed at them, and he like had to really like sit down with them and like get as serious as he had been with them at the time of their career, where like stop messing around, get stuff done, which is understandable, but you have to look at it as like they're kids. But in an industry like that, that's kind of like the ugly truth, is that you have to
grow up,
get control of these people.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, and it's one of those, it just sucks because film's always going to be around, and it's such a
weird, because I mean it's ugly in its life, but it's also one of the most engaging things. I mean, why do you think it's still around?
Yeah.
Why do you think music is still
Milo
around?
and Odie.
Yeah, Milo and Odie with
how many dogs died and cats died on that set?
30.
It's crazy.
And because it's such a lighthearted movie, but I don't know if I could ever rewatch it with the same spite.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they don't tell you what goes into making the movie, so it doesn't ruin the magic of the movie.
Do you know about, I guess, I could see us doing a topic on it, but I'll do one more and you can do one more. Wizard of Oz, the main actress, Judy Garland, got like so much like harassment from directors, especially in her younger career. She definitely got asked to do a lot of stuff, and thankfully she didn't have to do too much. And then she got hopped up on pills and stuff, and then she was getting harassed by a bunch of the Munchkins, like just messing with her and stuff. But it's just like, you see the movie and you're like, this is the end product, this is the final thing. But a lot of troubles that go on set and a lot of stuff that happens to actors, they kind of have to power through it, because guess what? The show goes on and you have to do it, and this is the industry. But it's sad that the industry is so broken where you can't have more control about it and it being like better.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too serious in the BoJack episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, the film industry is paved with blood, broken bones, misogyny, sexist.
The industry is Babylon.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, if you watch Babylon, I mean, literally, people die on sets all the time. That was straight up.
I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, now obviously it's cut back like tenfold.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a lot safer now. We don't have people actually jumping off of trains.
They have contracts and stuff, but yeah, back then you could have like 15 people die and they just put it in the obituary.
Yeah, and it's nuts to me that to be real, that the film industry preys on literally every single person who goes into it. And if you don't know that, and you don't realize that, and you don't appreciate movies more because of that, it's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the byproduct of hundreds of people willing to like do whatever, basically, to get the end product out.
They put their heart and soul into it, and they're devoted. And some of that,
and that's kind of the kind of like twisted beauty of seeing this kind of fall of a character like BoJack.
Yeah,
it just puts it into he wants it to all work out, and there are so many other people like Gina, like she wants it to work. She really does. So much so that she is not willing to like press charges or anything like that. With her getting almost dying, straight up almost dying, and it's illustrated so well in this show.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and everyone got some pretty tough stuff with that. And I think with Princess Carolyn in season 5, she obviously her main focus is wanting to have a baby, but it's also with the industry. Like she gets put a little bit on the back burner, but her initial story growth is still there, where in season 4 she wanted a baby and she was having it and she was on Slate, and then her life kind of got wrecked. And in season 5, I think they're setting the building blocks for season 6, which
and Princess Carolyn's whole story arc is literally just wanting it so bad that she'd be willing to do whatever for it.
She's wanting a purpose to her life, because I think honestly, if we had to describe, I think at the end of the episode we should do that. We should try to describe them in a sentence. But for like Princess Carolyn, like, I mean, obviously
we'll save it for the end of the episode then.
Yeah. Well, then I'll go back to just like talking about her character arc and stuff. Her character arc with like season 5 is really just the absentee of a baby, and so after losing it, she distracts herself with work and work and work, and so that's why we see her kind of doing a lot more business stuff. But then they kind of throw in little hints here and there that she still subtly wants the baby and adoption, and especially like, and then like in the last, it's like the season finale or like the episode before of season 5, where she talks with Ralph again, and she gets a call about the adoption thing, and she goes there with Ralph because she needs him to like take her, and they actually end up almost getting the baby, but then they have an argument where she's like, listen, I'm getting the baby for me, not us. I get that you're here and you want to be a part of it and that you love me, but this is my baby. But then the woman feels inspired by that speech and she takes the baby back.
Yeah.
I want my baby back, baby
back.
But then, so like you said, yeah, she kind of loses it again, but she remains that this is what she wants to do, and she wants the baby and she wants it. And like literally, we don't see her get the baby. We just see, first things first, season 5 pops up. Got a baby now. Yeah. Because she's living her life and stuff.
She's a tough woman. And it's just one of those things where she knows she is, and she doesn't, but she only breaks down, I think, once or twice in the whole show, which is insane.
She had a breakdown
when she had a miscarriage.
When she had a miscarriage. She had a mini breakdown when she thought she was going to lose her business, and she had another breakdown when in season 6, a mini one, when she was taking care of her baby and trying to hold everything together.
Is this the season where all the PAs go on strike?
That was season 6.
Is it season 6? Because I know Judah's in this season though, isn't he?
No, he's in season 6. He comes back for those episodes. I don't think he shows up he shows up in like a itty bitty cameo.
Is he in season 4 more?
Yeah. Season 4 he.
By the way, Judah, another character you guys won't get to hear about, because I remember us talking about him for like, not even kidding, like
he's a very
minutes.
devoted character in season 4. He is literally like one of the best side characters, because he is like this.
He's the best assistant you could ever ask for.
Ever, because he already knows what you need. He's on it. He's like literally puts his own life away just to be like your servant. And he is probably the best thing that Princess Carolyn could have like asked for when it comes to the work mode. And he comes back he comes back in a very itty bitty cameo in season 5. But in season 6, when they do the PA strike thing, which is funny to look back at now, because especially talking about strikes.
Yeah, with how many has been going on for real.
And how they treated it. But like he came back and they ended up figuring it out and him taking care of it.
Princess Carolyn was just to talk about the strike and stuff, because the strike that is an important character thing for season 6.
I mean, I think we can. Well, let's do one more thing and then we'll jump into season 6. Season 5, Diane and Miss Peanut Butter. Obviously, in season 4, we saw them break up in their marriage and them just not wanting this anymore because they kind of just were two different people. And in season 5, we see kind of a couple things go down with Diana kind of figures out her own thing. And honestly, in season 5, she kind of is just struggling with being single in her life, because she had such a good thing going, and it was her own choice to divide it. But she
also, doesn't Mr. Peanut Butter go with pickles?
Yep. So Mr. Peanut Butter finds another wife, like he does, and he got it with this woman.
Once again, it's another like 20-year-old.
Yeah, and they describe that
strung out.
They actually say that in season 5. In season 5, they talk about it but yeah. So I'll jump into it after I say this one thing. I want
let me get it out, man.
I want to be pretty linear. I don't know. But yeah. So they break up. Diane kind of goes, and she goes to. It's an episode thing, but she goes off to Vietnam because that's where she's from, and she realizes she didn't really find much purpose in their life.
Yeah, and the way that they frame it with her being like, you go to Vietnam because you want to
connect
to your family ties, and then she doesn't do that at all. She like goes to like a McDonald's or something.
She tries to go to Vietnam. She doesn't have the language for it. She tries to embrace it. She can't. She goes to like a film set and stuff and pretends to be like a Vietnamese tourist. and then they find out that she's not, and so she realized that like I don't know what I want, and then she comes back to America and she like gets a crappy apartment and she does all this stuff, and then she continues to work and stuff again. Like she sometimes these characters get put on the back burner a little bit, but they have very like eccentric episodes. But the whole thing about season 5 was her kind of like getting her groove back and finding herself as just Diane, and she does. She kind of like gets away from BoJack a lot, and she tries to stay away from him. And then with Mr. Peanut Butter, he's kind of still doing his thing, but I think finally he goes through the emotions again, but with a new wife, and it's hard to see a contrast away from Diane because we never really saw his earlier wives. We just saw snippets. But he obviously wants to change because
Are they like all named Diane?
No.
What is it? They're all named. There are 2 that are named the same thing. I'm pretty sure.
No.
You sure?
I don't think so.
Sworn.
I think the first. I don't know who the first one is. I forgot. The second one is Jessica Biel because I remember her. Like
it's me, Jessica Biel.
And yeah, and
do you know who I am?
She's funny. I love how they can just get actors to play themselves in BoJack Horseman. It's just so funny. Do you think they write the characters and just call them up, or do you think they make the joke and then they go, "Come on"?
I don't know. I don't know how they do it because it's very interesting to me.
Because there was one in season 6 where it's like, that's just Jay Hernandez pretending to be in rehab for a role. He goes, "What? No, I'm really serious about this role."
Yeah, I'm here for real. Jessica Biel, Diane, Katrina.
Katrina is the first
and
one.
then
Pickles. And so yeah, he does all that. And he tries to find something different because, and especially in like a big episode that helps this out, is there's an episode where they go to a Halloween party and it shows him having the party every single year at BoJack's place with a new wife. Like not every single year, but like
every couple years.
Every couple years, the party shows him with his new wives, and something bad happens.
And they're all like
young.
They're also like, "Can you stay with me?"
Yeah.
Some of them are, and other ones are like, "Do this" and whatnot. And he like immediately doesn't do that.
He neglects it, not on purpose, but he just neglects it, and then everything goes horribly wrong, and then they don't like it, and obviously he thinks that he's the root of the problem. And he's partially right. And then when he has a talk with Diane about it with Pickles, obviously this time it's a bit different because normally he's never had to interact with 2 of his wives. And I think definitely when it comes to his relationships, Diane was his most passionate one. And
also, we're talking about season 6 now, right?
5. This is the end of
okay.
It's like episode 11 or
no.
something. But in season 5, in that episode of the Halloween party, she obviously thinks it's awkward too, and she tries to stay away from it as much as she could. But then she tells him he asks her like, "What's going wrong?" And she goes, "Here's the answer. Stop dating like younger women. Like you're an old person.
Stop dating younger women."
Because it's just like, well, they're not like young, but they're like, like early 20s, mid 20s, and he's like this like late 40s, early 50s guy. Where here's the fact is that you're expecting people to. He's not expecting change. And when change happens, he kind of neglects it, and it starts going wrong, and he starts to lose interest, or he starts to like try to hold on to the same thing, which made them kind of turn off away from him. And it kind of repeats itself a little bit with Pickles, like, but at least hearing it from Diane, he respects it, and then he does feel passionate with her again, and they do end up hooking up a couple times.
Yeah, so he
cheats on Pickles. But she's a funny little additional character.
Pickles is like, it's like complete. Everything she does is online. Like straight up, she has like the pickle pack. I think is what they're called.
She's like a social media
influencer, like an Instagram model.
She's trying to be a Instagram social media manager. Cause she does end up doing that season 6.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think it was a good way of showing them like them kind of. I think it's cool because it's showing them really doing more or less the same. Where they don't change, but they just get a little smarter and they become a little bit more aware. And and at least in that sense, they can live life a little better. And I think that is sometimes life where it's like most of the time you're not going to change who you are, but you can at least be more like just have a better mindset or a different mindset to help it just flow by easier. Yeah,
and I think This show is just so well written. Is what I think.
It's a great show, and I think honestly, obviously there's a lot of. It's a very smart show. And it's a very deep show. It's a very emotional show, and obviously I think people get a little blindsided by it because even though it's marketed as that, people see like the animation, they see like the humor in it, and they kind of see it at face value, and they don't deep dive into it. And obviously it's not for everybody, because some people wouldn't probably like it, but I think when it comes to just as like a show, if you were to like give it a chance and sit down with it and really like think about the themes more than just the actual story, like it's very, very well done. Like it's up there for me in like I would say top 15 shows.
Yeah, I would say probably it's probably in my top 10.
Top 10?
Yeah. Breaking Bad is a really good show. So
yeah, Breaking Bad's up there for top 5 for me.
Another thing that happens in the industry a lot, I don't know if they touched on very much, is like getting like hate mail.
But like they did for
I think they did for like season 2
for
or
like
something.
an episode in season 2 or 3. Yeah.
Just talking about like Skylar and how she got like actual real hate mail and death threats because people for some reason can't say, oh, it's a TV show. They're like, no, this is a documentary.
I think that is dumb, because she got it. I know the guy who played the new Captain America, or the fake Captain America in the Winter Soldier show, got hate mail because they were like, you're not him, you're not him, and it's like, well, that's the point. And yeah, I think that's just common stupidity of people, where it's like if you hate them,
wait to get death threats.
If you hate them,
stupid.
If you hate them, good, because that means they did a good job acting. But separate art from like life,
art from the artist, dog.
That's why That's why when I look at BoJack and I think it has some good pieces and good media, obviously I'm not taking it into my own life. Like I may take a glare at it, but I'm not changing my whole personality because I watch BoJack Horseman. Like, I enjoyed it. It's a show. It's media, and it has good themes, and it's good to listen to. But I'm not changing my life and turning myself sober, because I already am. But I'm not like turning myself like into a completely new person because I watched a TV show, or I'm not hating. Because for a while I kind of didn't like Diane in one of these seasons, just like because how ugly it was for a minute. But I'm not sending Allison Brie hate mail because she voiced a character in a show. Yeah. I think that is kind of funny.
Well, I don't. It's just ridiculous.
But yeah, so season 5 I think was a great setup and a good smooth track to send them off in season 6. And I think that's really cool. So we're gonna jump into season 6 immediately. Fantastic start with a cool montage of BoJack in rehab, trying to actually get clean. And in a weird way, rehab becomes his new drug, his new addiction, because he thinks it was tough for him, but he jumps into it and he really starts to feel like it's making a change in his life. But once the program was coming to a halt, or like to an end, he was afraid that he was going to go back into his old habits again, because he just knows that that's what happens. So he wants to sign up and keep doing rehab because he's afraid of escaping and becoming like old BoJack again. Mm-hmm. And so he's dependent now on something else. He's addicted to something else, where this thing is a good thing to be addicted to. Any addiction is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's one of those things where it's just this season illustrates kind of I think this is his worst downward spiral, honestly, because he's like on top of the world almost, really, at the end of season 5.
Is it weird because we're upset? We're not upset, but like it's bad to see that he's finally okay. Like, because like this whole season, he's very neglectful and stuff, and he does a lot of but we don't actually see him do anything super awful this season. He just is he's finally in a good spot, but what it is his past is finally catching up to him. Yeah. And he doesn't want to admit it yet.
It's kind of rough because he finally seems to be kind of okay with himself. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I can move on. This can be how it works. I've found passion in teaching. Mm-hmm. And then he finds out that there are news reporters. It's the pig and the one dude.
I think I love the pig lady, by the way. Yeah. She is so like, she comes in with a Southern Belle accent, and she comes in here and starts talking.
If they had a whole room of things you didn't know, what was it? What is the line? It's if they put everything that you didn't know into a room, I don't know, what is it? There's a room for what that's called. It's a library. Oh yeah. But it's definitely some of the wittiest, funniest comebacks ever.
I think it's one of the funniest things. She always like calls her husband, and we never see him. And she's like,
Reginald,
I have to put you on the phone. I have to put you on hold, sweetheart. I know we're scheduled to be married. And she like hangs up, and it's like, but I'm following the scoop. Like she's very old
following the scoop.
Old in time, like
this is my last one before I get done getting married.
Developer character, and she just was such a. Obviously, we didn't need a character like that. We didn't have to like. We could have just had any news reporter person, but to have it be this over the top eccentric person in the final season, like thank you. Like that was some good fun.
Paige Sinclair.
Paige Sinclair.
Ah man, I wish I had some of the
quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this one is just kind of. It definitely is more BoJack centric. Like obviously there are episodes like we did speak about a little bit about Princess Carolyn. I think everyone does get an episode at least. Like BoJack has the majority of the episodes because again it is his show. But then we do get some closers for people. Like for Princess Carolyn, her closer episode it's not like her final episode, but the closer episode on her character arc is when she's stressing out about her baby. And well, she kind of gets two. She gets one when they have the strikes about the assistants and stuff, because it's her kind of like, because she was on the other end of that, and she was having to try to convince them to stop being assistants or to like give up what they want. But then she realized, having like a glimpse into her past, that she hated being an assistant because she kept being abused, and she understands what they're going through. And so she enacts the help of Jonah to
and Jonah's like a force to be reckoned with, dude.
You didn't expect it, and he comes out here like, yeah, I know how to handle this. This is what we asked for. Like, you can't bargain with me.
Here it is.
Okay, go ahead.
You could fill a library with everything that you don't know, and then they're in fact they do. They call them libraries, and that's really funny. They have so many funny little comebacks. Paige Sinclair is funny as hell.
They have so many good comebacks. It's like it was like the one he was talking about with the therapist in season 6. Like he says a bunch of therapy stuff, and he's just kind of like, you know what? You know when people say metaphors, they try to simplify it. I applaud you for not doing that, because he keeps saying like these really weird metaphors, and it's
I applaud you for not doing that.
It just doesn't make any sense. He just keeps making more confusing metaphors. But yeah, Princess Carolyn's kind of end is like, she's grown out of this person, but she still remembers her past about being an assistant, and she wants better for people, and so she does that, and then she kind of takes off and becomes a manager again. But there's an episode that for her character personally, aside from all the business stuff, her character personally is like, what is her purpose? What does she want to do? And she's had so much stuff from, I know I said not about being an assistant, but for being an assistant, having a pretty ugly mom, trying to tell her what she has to do with her life. And maybe
that's ugly mom.
Like ugly behaviored mom, ugly. and her losing babies and stuff, and her just kind of like not sure what she wants. And then she finally gets this baby, and she knew it was going to be hard work, but it was extremely hard work, and her life was spiraling a bit. And I like the animation for it. It shows like clones of her doing different activities at the same time. Yeah,
and they're solid colors. Yeah. I like that a lot, and I like the kind of the like and it's like the her breathing, and then like it makes this cool kind of beat every time of each of them making their own sounds or whatever. And it just shows so well. It kind of illustrates that like she has to do everything now. And then luckily enough, Jonah does end up
taking a lot of the responsibility at work off for her, so she can finally get to become a mother. And because I mean, they were telling her, they were like, why not just be a mom and like kind of put it aside? And she was like, well, this is my job, and it's like, this is what she's worked so hard for. And then they're like, well, maybe you just need like a break or something. And then Jonah comes in and takes it over, and she's finally in control of her life. Yeah. But she had a conversation with, is it Vanessa Gecko or Amanda Gecko?
Vanessa Gecko.
Vanessa Gecko, someone she despises, that, and I thought it was a great scene because, you know, it's you playing fair with your enemies, or having because a lot of time you can despise a person or not like a person, but she kind of put that aside and was just being, and the thing was, she was kind of in an argument with her just before, and then they kind of just get real for a second, and they just become human beings again, and they talk, and she gives her great motherly advice, and then I like at the end, she's like, man, and imagine we really hated each other. And she goes, what? I didn't hate you. Like,
yeah, and then she's like, oh yeah, me neither.
But it's just a good thing where it's like she finally got to like so wrap up her story and just be herself. And because she was talking about like, maybe I shouldn't have the baby, maybe I should give her away, because she hadn't named her at the time. And then next thing you know, she's like, no, you need to stick with it. This is definitely what you want. And then she does. And then for the rest of the season, we see her like loving this baby, being a good mom, still like having her life as a manager, but still doing all this stuff. And she has a good ending. I mean, the thing is, even in, I don't want to like talk about the season finale just yet, but she talks about this with BoJack. Like, she has all this obligation, and yet she's still trying to be a good friend to BoJack because she is like, she still loves him. Like in a sense,
he was her first great love.
First great love, and she talks about it, and she's like, well, why not help you still? And she's just she kind of has a good ending because she's finally.
Oh, she does. I mean, literally, I think. Which is crazy to me that they did this. I think everyone gets a solid ending, including BoJack, which is nuts. That BoJack gets kind of not a redemption arc,
but he gets the ending.
Gets better.
He gets the best ending that he could probably hope for. But yeah, you kind of end out her character really well, and I think it was super. And I mean, they would have had to know, not know the ending of her story, but know that she deserved it after so many years of working hard and of crap she deserved, and she finally got a hold of herself.
I liked her trying to make Jonah show and stuff, and cutting off the work and doing that, and then he ended up not playing and going and doing work, and then they ended up just sitting and doing work instead of doing the show. And then she's like, "Could you play something for me?" And he sings and kind of has his guitar out, and they make such a good couple, for sure. And they do end up getting together, by the way. Spoilers alert.
I mean, we're talking about the whole ending, so you should understand that. But I think that is pretty good, and it's just satisfying. And speaking of kind of satisfying, not so satisfying, that's like. I want to talk about them separately, but with Mr. Peanut Butter, because I think I'm trying to ramp up to the characters. And again, Todd has a good ending too, but again, like Todd's kind of like this character that just gets good.
We love Todd, but Todd like has always kind of had.
He's always been like.
He's only had to been serious a couple of times in the entirety of the show.
And even when he's serious, it's probably to forward someone else's like benefit.
The only time it wasn't is whenever it was with his mom and his dad. And
I actually did like that episode, and that happens in season 6 too. Is where his mom's in a coma, and his dad
coma.
Yeah, right. And he has to get a kidney, and he sold his kidney, and so he has to sneak in with his. Is it his like his dad or like his stepdad?
It's his dad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's his dad.
And he has to move him, and his dad comes back, and his dad and his mom has kicked him out, and he was being neglectful, and they neglected him for like 10 years, didn't talk to him, but then he came to just tell him that his mom had health issues, and he was like, well, let's go get my kidney back. And so him and his dad team up to sneak in,
and they do Todd antics, but it works, and his dad gets to see that he's capable. And Todd does get a little serious about it, where he's like, I get that I didn't live up to your purpose, but why couldn't you just be happy for me? And then he's like, it wasn't me. Like, I wasn't. I mean, obviously he had some. I wasn't the one worried about you. It was your mother. And also, by the way, Todd gets a girlfriend. She's not really. I don't think she's crazy important to the story or anything.
No.
But just to throw it out there, he does end up getting a girlfriend in an apartment in his own place, and like, he ends up like succeeding. He gets a good ending. And his dad and his mom, that's great. And then like with Mr. Peanut Butter, which I think is significantly more important. I think it's
important. I love the little thing that happens with him. Like, obviously he has some fun shenanigans in the beginning, and I think it does kind of end. Like, it ends a little abruptly, but I think it's fun. Like with the whole Pickles thing, like the whole season of season 6 is like.
Because they cheated, and then Pickles starts cheating on him like crazy.
Because he's like.
It doesn't feel like the same emotional connection.
Yeah, first he's like comes up to her in the early couple part of the episodes, and he's like, I did cheat with Diane, and she's like, okay, I love you, but then they're both like both simple, so he's like. So I think the only way that we can have a normal marriage is if you go off and cheat on somebody else. And he's like, so how did it go? Well, I've been with 30 guys now, and it's just not emotional, so I don't understand what we should do. He goes, hold on, how about you do it with my business coworker? And they end up like actually falling for each other. And then he goes, I like in the finale, like he wants her to be happy, and so he never does get married with her, but he wants her to be happy, and he sends her off to work with this guy. And then the next episode, he's like, yep, I'm wondering how it goes. Oh, just got a text message. I've been broken up for good. And it's just so funny because, like, that is kind of what happens. But he does have this, like, little arc of... I like that he didn't get married to her just because it was some change. He indecisively broke the cycle.
And I will say I like I've seen some edits, some like super dumb
Yeah.
Sigma edits,
Oh, yeah.
where it's or not Sigma edits, but like the sad Gen Zer edits, where
Sad
it's like him getting sad dad, yeah, or sad dog,
Sad dog.
yeah, sad dog meme. But he's Mr. Peanut Butter is straight up like it like cuts from I cheated with triplets or whatever, and just the sex was great or whatever, and it cuts to that, and then it cuts to BoJack, and he's like nobody loves me, and it's got like don't you be afraid, and I'm like that's crazy that they're making edits out of this.
Oh wow, they're making like the weird like
lonely guy edits.
Don't do it. That's crazy.
But yeah, so it just reminded me of that. I had to.
Well, it is kind of funny because you talk of like the beginning is like he is like kind of semi fake depressed. Like,
Yeah,
he just gets someone just hears him
sad.
Yeah, because they try to just hear him say something, and then they're like, "You should become the face of depression." And
Yeah, he
like,
becomes the face of like getting better and getting help. When like, and then I think BoJack. he's like if anything, I should have been the face of getting better after depression.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, I think you're the worst example of it, but it's just a fun little shenanigan of this guy, and he does go through some troubles, but he ends up. I mean, he's Mr. Peanut Butter. He's always going to be okay, and he's always got like such a good.
Mr. Peanut Butter always lands on his feet, man. Just like Princess Carolyn.
Yeah, and then moving on to our last two, Diane. She's such a special case because I had a crazy like understanding of her character this like season 5, season 6.
Yeah,
because like in season 5,
she's very relatable.
Oh yeah, and there was a crazy argument in season 5 that I loved with her and BoJack, where he finally told her, or she had to find out parts about what happened with Penny, and so she wrote into an episode, and he acted it, and then he got mad at her because of what happened, but then he tried to blow it off. But then she goes, "Actually, I'm not coming back to set anymore because I think it's awful." And so she's kind of like doing the dance with the devil, but then she's also thinking she's kind of like trying to like act as if her hands are still clean and try to have some built of self-righteousness.
Yeah.
But then BoJack straight up tells her that she can't do that. And that's always been Diane's character and her character flaw, which makes her more interesting, is that she
thinks she's better.
She thinks she's better than everybody, and she's degrading people. And especially even in this season where she dates this new camera guy, which is voiced by Lakeith Stanfield, my boy. I love him.
By the way, he is great. He's really funny.
He's such a fun character because
he's like the only like normal good guy for a while.
I really like him because how he talks about Chicago is how I talk about Memphis.
Yeah.
I get super into talking about my hometown.
Yeah, when it's like, well, it's 60 degrees here, and it's like, well, it could be 60 degrees somewhere else, but we're in Chicago, baby.
Are we having a Chicago-style argument?
Yeah, then how are we supposed to have Chicago-style hot dogs? And, like, they're a great match. And I like that Diane, who is a character who thinks she is better than everyone, gets humbled by the fact that she is a better writer for like kids books. And then she starts writing kids books. She writes kids books and they're really good. And then also she ends up getting with him and like they end up working out.
It's good that it's good that what's it called? Princess Carolyn is the one, like obviously he told her some stuff, but it's good that Princess Carolyn is the one who confided in her and was like, listen, write the book that you want to write, and I get that you want to be this esteemed writer, but if you're better at writing something and it makes you feel better, do it. And I like that because she writes this character unconsciously while she's like taking these antidepressant pills, and it kind of makes her like gain a little weight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She gets a little chunky off of the Chicago style diet, and then also the no more anorexia, or the no more. I think she had anorexia. I think is what it was. But whenever it's because of her depression, and then she stops being depressed, and then she ends up being happy, and it's just crazy how much of a 180 she has, and she has a great last conversation. I think her and BoJack are the last two people to talk in the show.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, we can. Do you want to talk about that yet, or?
Well, we're diving into the finale now, so
I feel like that should be more of a BoJack thing, anyways. But Diane and BoJack are the two closest characters.
Okay,
I feel
we'll wrap up our final thoughts on Diane, and then we'll jump into it. But yeah, I think Diane had a great assessment of her character, where like I think she
gets better.
She gets better, and I think she definitely needed that because even through all these seasons, she's always kind of been the same character, but had more off, like not even like anything super awful. Like obviously everyone who's in the show has had something really rough happen to them. But she's always been someone who's kind of had like some very minor stuff happen to her, but it's just been personal to her, and her being a very kind of like overreactive, judgmental person.
Yeah.
That kind of made her feel like it was 10 times worse than it is. But obviously everyone goes through their own trauma. And so she finally got like a very healthy relationship that also pushed boundaries of herself that made her end up finally healing her own body, like her own self and mind and everything, where, you know, and it shows, obviously it shows with how she was written, but it also shows how she looks. Like, you know, obviously people kind of tell you like you need to be this certain look, but she, as some people say,
she's gained weight. She lives somewhere else. She ends up getting with the bison guy, right? Like permanently, or do they end up breaking up? I can't remember.
I think it's left inconspicuously. Like I think because at the end I think it's like fine, but maybe give it the Google because I forgot about it. But like I know that they were together for a very. I think they ended up together. But it is like this thing where it's like she finally has become happy in her own self after so many seasons of being not happy and kind of like.
Oh, she did. She ended up marrying Guy.
Good. I like his name is just Guy. I think it's so funny. But yeah, she ends up just finally
That's
being
probably the
happy.
picture I'll use for the thumbnail for this or for this one, for the season finale, maybe.
Do it.
Yeah. Diane's wrapped up really neatly.
Everyone's wrapped up so neatly.
And it's interesting because she gets wrapped up before BoJack does, and it makes us kind of feel like BoJack could have a good ending. Because she is a like diet version of BoJack. She has a lot of the same issues, but they're just not as severe.
BoJack Zero.
BoJack Zero.
Yeah.
BoJack Zero Sugar.
BoJack Zero Sugar is Diane. Well, no.
No, she's definitely extra sugar after the end of this season.
Diane is the diet. Oh, wow. Diane is the diet, and diets actually don't help. But Princess Carolyn is the BoJack Zero Sugar.
Yeah.
And then Todd is
extra sweetened.
Todd is the water.
He's the Mexican version.
Mexican Coke.
Yeah, he's Mexican cane sugar. Yummy, awesome, good Coke.
You're kind of like, is it bad? I don't care. It's good. Like it's fun. I like the bottle.
Man, I just was so shocked by how much character progression they gave her.
Mr. Peanut Butter? I'm so sorry. Does that mean Mr. Peanut Butter is the Coke energy drink?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
He's the monster of the group. But I'm just shocked that they wrapped it all up so neatly, and they actually made it work well. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like I had to forgive these characters. I just did.
Yeah. So let's jump into BoJack. I want you to talk about this because I'm gonna obviously have some input, but I think I want you to talk about it more because for a couple of reasons. One, you're the one who got me introduced in the show. You're the one that came up with this idea. You actually did a monologue of his speech, The View from Halfway Down, and I think it's really good. And I think that you have a lot better grasp of the ending. And I think that I want you to just kind of say your points on it. And if I have something, I will input it. But I want you to take the lead.
So are we going to do the ending on a keeping it short?
No.
Or do you want to just do it in this? We're doing it in this?
Right,
All right,
right
we're doing it here. We're doing it live, baby.
Right.
Let me pull it up.
Turn the live stream
on. I'm just trying to go so I don't end up spoiling something by thinking it's a episode ahead.
What else are you trying to talk about?
I'm just looking at the season 5 so I can see BoJack's progression kind of way easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's season 6. Cool. Mm-hmm. Arabian Night. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So now that I'm all set up, the first episode does end up on BoJack kind of going into rehab. And that's a huge thing for him because he's a drinker, and he tries to wean himself off of vodka and stuff. But rehab and therapy seem to really help him, and he actually ends up like really getting a good grasp of himself there and feeling better about himself. And that's kind of like the first part of the season is like, oh, BoJack's on the up and up, we're good. And then we see BoJack kind of be around with we talked about this with Mr. Peanut Butter, but he does feel weird about the fact that Mr. Peanut Butter is the face of depression. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting. And before that, also, by the way, BoJack tries to help the therapist that he had because the therapist ends up drinking a bottle of vodka
that BoJack got. Well, technically it's not his bottle.
It's not his. It's not BoJack's fault, but he is like indirectly responsible.
He's indirectly responsible and he tries to help the therapist out.
So he ruins a therapist's life, which is awesome. A horse therapist.
It's good that he does try hard. He like checks him into rehab, and he's like, "You ruined my life." Where he's actually probably did good, but obviously, like, you know.
And BoJack starts teaching, and it's kind of weird because Hollyhock actually ends up meeting
Pete Repeat.
Pete Repeat, which he doesn't repeat.
Because he's like, "What's your name?" Like, it's Hollyhock. What's your last name? We'd be here all day. My name's Pete. I'm not gonna show you my last name because we'd also be here a long time too.
So dumb. I hate Pete Repeat.
What?
But he talks to Sarah, or he talks about the fact that his friend, at some point during their prom, got super drunk because of this old guy. Mm-hmm. And then I think she puts the dots together, and it's kind of discussed.
She's like, she does the scene where, like, in the office, where, like, spoiler, Pam, in an episode of The Office, Pam finds out that Michael is dating her mom, and she's like, "Who is it? Who?
Yeah.
Who, Michael?" And they do that. She goes like, "Who? What was the actor's name? What was his name?" And it's like the pause, and then you kind of like put.
Yeah.
It's silence
BoJack.
is the biggest answer.
BoJack tries to get into rugby because Hollyhock is in rugby, and he ends up actually really connecting with it and really being there for her. She does not like that he is so close, especially after finding out all this bad shit about him. But also, it's understandable that she's upset with him.
Yeah, she kind of keeps her distance, and I don't even know if she'd be really divided per se, because she does love him, but also it's like, it's like, you know, a guy, and I mean, I don't want to like say nothing, but like we had an experience kind of like that, where like we knew a person and then something happened, and then we kind of distanced ourselves. And
then all the Sarah Lynn stuff comes out about him, and he goes on TV and apologizes and talks about it. And people actually end up really resonating with him the first time he does it. Mm-hmm. But then he goes and does another interview and totally ruins it. Mm-hmm. Totally ruins it. He shouldn't have done that. And he's now at one of his lowest lows, which is rough. And then we don't see him, or we see him. Oh, that's when the horny unicorn. He gets pitched that movie by another burnout.
Yep.
And then he finds out that he could have stopped Herb from being fired. And that's like boom, boom, boom. His career's at an all-time low. He finds out he could have saved his best friend's career. He didn't have to do everything he did, and he gets mad about it. And he takes a car out. And he ends up relapsing. And then he ends up in episode 15. It's called The View from Halfway Down. And the only tagline for it is that BoJack reconnects with some faces from his past. This episode is one of the best, I think, cartoon or even straight up episodes I've ever seen of a TV show. BoJack wakes up, and he knows it's a dream. He's had this dream before, which is already super off-putting. The fact that he has been here before, and he knows that he is going to wake up. I put in quotes. We start off with everybody at the dinner table. It's his mom, his uncle from the war, which he didn't really get to meet, but he put a bunch of expectation on BoJack. Sarah Lynn's there, Herb's there, the guy who hung himself is there, and it's just really interesting because they all have these plates of food. BoJack gets, I believe what he gets is just a regular meal, but then his uncle gets a military ration. His mom gets, I think, a thing of sugar, and then Sarah Lynn gets a plate of pills, and it's thematic. I think Herb gets a bunch of peanuts. He was allergic to peanuts, and that's actually how he died. He didn't die from cancer. He died from hitting a car that was full of peanuts. Yeah. And he did live tweet it, which is really funny. But this is one of those moments where he starts talking to everybody, and his mom's like, "Where's your dad at? Where's your dad at? He's always late." And he's like, "Well, Mom, I always end up waking up before Dad gets here anyway, so it doesn't matter." And they talk about like what's their best moment and their worst moment in life, and what really matters. And it starts dawning on you as this black liquid starts dripping from the ceiling that this is not a dream. It's something serious. And the themes and stuff of like the mockingbird, I think is in there. I think it's a mockingbird. The bird who's in there still kind of is his ray of hope whenever it's broken down. And when she dies is when it's rough, but they let her out. And that's kind of an idea of like, there's still hope here. They finish dinner and he's like, all right, I'm about to wake up now. And they open up the door and he gets to the second act and he's like, I don't know why I haven't woken up yet. It's a stage performance from everyone. And Secretariat actually shows up and that's his dad. And he kind of mixes his dad with Secretariat, and it's kind of this whole thing. And it kind of really shows that he idolized Secretariat more than even his own father. And Secretariat talks about him committing suicide. And he does a poem for it. And I actually did a monologue over this poem.
It was a good monologue, by the way.
Thank you. But the poem is called The View from Halfway Down. And it talks about his regret and how he wished he had actually looked and understood what was going to happen when he did that. And it's kind of this grappling with death, which is kind of strewn about through all the performances. His mom does a ribbon trick and her brother plays the piano. And the way that they disappear, I guess, is through this door. She disappears through the ribbons, which is very interesting. She's kind of just disappears into the ribbons, and the ribbons go through the door. But her brother, who went and fought in the war, valiantly goes to the door and just is like, I'm on the other side. He jumps off, no hesitation. And it shows his resolve and stuff. And then Sarah Lynn does the song where it's the Can't Stop Dancing, you know, can't stop dancing till the curtain falls. And then she does her own performance. And then she jumps. And as people go through and do their things, when it gets down to Herb, it's Herb and him. And BoJack kind of goes to the door, and Herb is like, "This is it." I think it's literally, it's like, this is it. It's like the faucet has run dry. It's the last drop. And he's like, "What's on the other side?" He's like, "I guess we'll see on the other side." And then,
BoJack, there is no other side.
Yeah, there is no other side.
I've heard. I think I knew about BoJack before, and I watched a couple of the early seasons, like when it first came out, and I just like lost interest because I wasn't old enough to. Probably, I mean, I was old, but I wasn't old enough to actually get a part of it. But then now, when I'm like older, and I have a lot deeper understanding of media and just life, and depending on like how you speculate it, I remember hearing that soundbite on TikTok, and I thought it was just like super deep.
Yeah,
and obviously, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but like hearing that is like super powerful, especially when you're on death's door.
Yeah, which is
or you're on the inch of that thing.
And literally, he's at death's door, and when Herb is like, there is no other side. When he does that, he puts his hand up against the door, and his body gets eaten by this like black liquid. And BoJack runs. BoJack fights to stay alive. And he runs and he runs and he runs, and this black liquid fills up the house, and it kills the bird, which actually is like it's straight up a motif for his hope of living is like gone, basically. And when that happens, he's outside and he has a phone, and he calls Diane. And the conversation between him and Diane is one of the most interesting parts of the show. He just calls her, and she's like, "BoJack, you know I didn't pick up." And everything that he's been going through is his brain grappling and understanding that he is going to die. And it's just trying to comfort him in some way. And while the screen's getting filled up with black, the only thing that we hear is Diane talks about her day. And BoJack is really happy to hear that. And then it cuts to literally, I think, the tone of like, wee, at the end of the episode. And it's really, really, really interesting because that could be the last episode. It could have been.
They could have ended the show and people would have been okay with it. But like it, you know.
And then episode 16, nice while it lasted. BoJack does not die. He was actually just in. He drove back to his house and fell in the pool, and that was super interesting that was part of the
Opening,
thing.
like this intro.
Yeah, yeah. But the intro for this, let me see here, is literally the beeping sound effect, and then he's in the hospital, and he's like, "Bleh." And they're like, no. And when that happens, it's him on TV. And he's just a dead body in a doc show or something. And it's just so interesting that they open up with the shot of Diane and him looking up in the stars, because that's the end of the episode. This episode kind of loops itself perfectly, which is really interesting. And then we find out he ends up going to prison. And because he's in prison, he has to stay clean forever. But he gets out because he's going to Princess Carolyn's wedding. Mm-hmm. And he gets out with Mr. Peanut Butter. They talk and they have food and stuff. And he's actually really happy now. And prison really did like help him out a lot. Mm-hmm. But he goes onto the beach with Todd when stuff gets a little crazy in the party. And I like that Todd is just there for him. And he's like, listen, bud, I thought it was going to be, you seemed like it was getting rough in there, and I just want you to be better. And he's like, well, now I'm sober. I've been sober for 6 months, but I don't know what's going to happen when I get out. And he said, then you're going to make a new record. You're going to break it again and again and again. And you're going to keep doing it. And he's like, what if I relapse? And he said, then you'll start over again. And it finally clicks, I think, with BoJack that one, Todd is a really good friend, and two, that it will be okay. It is okay, and he is okay and getting better. And then he has this awesome little slow dance with Princess Carolyn. By the way, I love that BoJack's hair is gray now. I like that he doesn't dye it anymore. He can't dye it anymore, and that shows that like it's a metamorphosis for him. He's not holding on to the past anymore, and I think that's such a great way of showing and illustrating that is that his hair color changes from being dyed to not dyed, where it like he doesn't care what he looks like anymore. He just is enjoying being and existing. And him and Princess Carolyn talk and have like they catch up and they have this really fun kind of moment. But the moment that I think is really interesting is the last conversation with Diane. This conversation with Diane is pretty, I don't know how to put it. It's not significant. It's just them catching up. But knowing what we do and knowing that Diane means so much to him, and knowing that she knows what happened and stuff, it's just interesting seeing this kind of somber, like, just melancholy kind of, we're probably never going to see each other again. And it kind of illustrates that, like, BoJack's no longer her problem, but also that, like, BoJack lost somebody really close to him. And he handles it. It works out for him. And I think the idea is that the end of the show is that he ends up cleaning up himself and getting better. And I think that it was illustrated really well. And their last conversation, let me see if I can't find the last words. Because the last words, I feel like, because it's like straight up the end of the episode. It's like 25 minutes in, and it's like 10 minutes or like 4 minutes of, like somewhere around there. It's like 4 minutes, 5 minutes of them just looking up at the stars and while a song plays. The end of the song, by the way, end song, really good. I think literally the last line is, sometimes life's a bitch, but you got to keep on living. And he says, yeah. And then it's like, but it's a nice night, huh? Yeah. This is nice. And that's it. That's literally it. Mm-hmm. The last thing is just them living together and being together in just a moment. And
sharing a moment. I mean, it's I don't want to throw my own ego in there, especially when we're talking about such a tough subject. But I wrote something like that a couple years ago, and during COVID time, and it was like the important beat was the moment.
Yeah,
where like there was a lot of chaos right before it. People just calm down because it's just a good moment, and sometimes all you need is just a single moment.
I kind of wrote that recently too, in like my one where it was talking about like death and stuff.
The Reaper
my script.
One?
Yeah, the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper shows up, and the Grim Reaper isn't this scary guy.
He's
just somebody there to help you get comforted and moved on. And that's not like a new concept or anything, of course, but.
Well, yeah, because you see it like sometimes in that meme where it's like, was I a good guy or was I did I live a good life or something? Or was I a good boy? The best.
Yeah, you're the best. But the idea is that like death is something that everyone's going to have to deal with. But BoJack doesn't have to right now. And he gets to just exist. There's no drugs. There's no alcohol. There's not even really any talking. They just get to exist for a moment, just together. And then they probably, like I said, at the end of the series, probably never see each other ever again. That's heavily implied.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so awesome that they get to experience that. And it's just so awesome as a viewer, especially because when I was watching it, I watched BoJack as it came out. And it was just so gut-wrenching knowing that. After seeing everything they've been through, 6 seasons worth of shit, it feels like you were really a part of this, and then it ends. And you just have to hope that things got better. This is one of the best written shows. And I'm happy that we took time to do it. I wish we didn't take so much time to do it, but
we're happy that we did do it, and I'm happy we didn't just quit on it, and we came and just talked about it. Because it is. I mean, I was really happy because for the later seasons, like 4 through 6, I was watching for the first time, and I mean, it's one of my new favorites. It's smart, it's witty, it's good, and it's like, it's just personal. It talks like I don't go through probably 60% of the stuff that BoJack does or any character on the show does, but I can at least understand because I know of what they're talking about, and I can visualize and I can hear them and I can listen, and it's gut wrenching. It's important.
That was season 6 of BoJack.
4, 5, 6, the whole cluster.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it before, and you know what? I honestly we reiterated literally everything for season 4.
Yeah,
that
so
the big points.
When I have no clue what we're gonna thumbnail or title. Or we know what we're gonna thumbnail, but I don't know what we're gonna title this. But we may just.
I'll probably just do it like season 4 through 6.
Yeah,
an overview or something. Podcast.
Well,
episode.
maybe put that like in
parentheses.
Yes. So call it.
BoJack season 5 and 6, and then put parentheses.
Nah. Give it a title, man. Call it call it the BoJack cluster.
BoJack cluster,
and then in parentheses put seasons 4, 5, and 6, and then then put Real Deal podcast.
I do want to just take a second and just thank everybody who's listened to this long.
Yeah, we are a year and a half in. Well, not a year and a half, but a year and like 3-4 months.
We're not the most consistent people, especially this time around. I don't think we explained it at the beginning, but it was we've had it was a really hard semester, and our semesters are how many months?
4.
Yeah, 4 months.
Because it's 4 months, and our school is year round, so we literally have classes 12 months. We have like itty bitty 2-week breaks, but then we have, and that's like at the end of every semester. So we have like maybe